Hello, this is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. I am your host of this motivational and inspirational podcast. And today's book of the Bible, Second Chronicles. Now we all began with the First Chronicles and how the beginnings of the positive attributes of 40 years of King David's reign and the events that have taken place in the First Chronicles. The Second Chronicles, it contains the stories of the kings of Israel. It talks more in depth in regards to who they are and what they did. It tells the story of the 400 years after King David's reign and the temple being built by King Solomon, who we know was David's son. The Chronicles were also recognized as prophetic work. It told the story or the views of God, the past of Israel, and made the announcements of their demise and his disappointments, which was not the end of the story. Meaning, although the Chronicles may have been the last book of the Hebrew Bible, it wasn't the last of the woes of the children of Israel. God also showed his hand as showing favor for the children of Israel. He is patient and long suffering because if you think about everything that the children of Israel had done, everything, God was surpassed long suffering. He surpassed long suffering. He was more patient than most of us could ever think about being even on this earth. Now, the book captures the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon over the southern kingdom, and he appointed Zedekiah to reign in Jerusalem. However, Zedekiah rebelled, and Babylon defeated Jerusalem and the temple and taken of their spoils or other things. You know, we need to be careful that when God appoints people to be in certain positions, that when God touches us to do something, let's do it. Let's not rebel against God, because Nebuchadnezzar was one of those kings that God did deal a lot with, both positive and negative. There was not a perfect king. And when we are put in positions where we are both trying to do the will of God, and God speaks to someone and asks someone to do something, or God has appointed you to do this, or God has appointed you to do that, and you rebel against the things of God, God frowns on that. God frowns on that because he has appointed people to tell other people what he is calling them to do. And in this case, Nebuchadnezzar, I believe, was touched by God and told Zedekiah to reign over Jerusalem. Well, with him rebelling, that was not pleasing unto God. And this is the story of the Chronicles, the things of the past, the present, and the future. God will warn the children of Israel, warn the leaders or the kings that were in charge at that time of the things that he was going to do if he does not see change, or you don't do the things that he has required us to do. Now, although this, again, a lot of people will say that's history, that's old. This history was prophetic because they spoke of Jesus' coming. They may hit and miss here and there in different books of the Old Testament, but prophetic work or words were spoken, even though some of this have not come to pass yet. We're still waiting. Now, the first and the second Chronicles were again written by Ezra through Nehemiah. So they captured all these events. Very important information. Very important of how long some of these prophets have been in the midst of everything, because I can look at it as this is God saying, to these children, right, take note of what's going on. Take note. And they did that. And although they may have been young children, they're now men who wrote about this. And it's all coming together. It's gelling together. I have a better understanding that these were all people, but they were just during generation after generation after generation, that the lineage all began back with Adam and Eve and Abraham. And then there's Moses and Noah. This all began back then. These are the same people. They just grew bigger and bigger and more, but they're the same people. And this is very interesting and very exciting to learn, because now we understand the importance of a king, their purpose, what God's expectations were of them, and how they conducted their business. So again, the book of the Bible for today is 2 Chronicles. This is another part of the Chronicles. I did not do them together because they both have the same writer but different stories, and I wanted to capture them separately so we can understand why that there was a part 1 and a part 2. You couldn't put it on. He could have. God could have. But maybe it was being told in 2 different ways. Ezra, one way. Nehemiah, another. And that's why it's important for me to learn this, because it all kind of is blending together for me and it's making more sense. And I hope that this is helping you as well. This is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. You have yourself a wonderful and blessed day.